Kathy got disconnected. She's trying to reconnect.
Okay, Mr. Bausch, it's 6 o'clock. The meeting's yours and we are on record. You have to hit on mute, Bob.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We're good.
Okay. Good evening. How many we got on, Steve?
I think 15.
Oh, good. Well, welcome everyone. As you all know, because of the virus, we are doing this all 100% tonight on Zoom. So bear with me as I work through this a little bit. I just want to remind everybody, if there's information you wish to present to the body, please do so. If you just send it in or email it to Matt Landers, and he will make sure we all get it and get it distributed. So afterwards, the comments or papers or whatever you come across, please submit them in to Matt, and Matt will make sure we all get to see them. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for any comments from the committee from the past meetings or any other discussion. No comments? Okay. Well, with that, then we'll move into procedural justice. Our Sheriff Sharon and Under Sheriff Mazar will be presenting. Are you? I don't hear Bill. Steve, you hear me?
Okay, you got me now?
I got you.
All right. Yeah, Brad's not going to be joining us today. He's tied up with something else. Okay, procedural justice. The policies that we promote that promote procedural justice, I think I forwarded all to you the general orders that we have. The first one would be General Order 101, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This is our rules of conduct, but I would point out a couple of the general or sections of that I feel are important. And again, stop me anytime and ask questions. Under Orders of Discipline A9, we stipulated complaints against members or employees of the Genesee County Sheriff's Office will be investigated as quickly and thoroughly as possible in accordance with directives. And the idea behind all this is that is public trust, and the public to know that, you know, we expect our officers to act in a professional manner. Did I lose somebody? No, I guess not. And to be cooperative with the public at all times, that there's be no prejudices involved in our enforcement of the law or serving the citizens of this county. We also have a section that says cooperation and coordination that, regarding that the officers will cooperate amongst one another and coordinate their activities. Section 13, or number 13, each member of the Genesee County Sheriff's Office shall perform one's duties in an efficient, courteous, and orderly manner using patience and good judgment at all times, shall refrain from crude, profane or insolent language, and shall be civil in one's dealings with the public. Assistance to citizens. Our officers are required members and employees of the Sheriff's Office shall render all possible service to the citizens in accordance with established policies and procedures. And of course, under number 16, medical attention, we will provide medical attention to anybody that's injured or needs such. And then we have unsatisfactory performance, which is 33 on the next page, top of the next page. Next page, there you go. We expect all officers to be competent in what they do, and that unsatisfactory performance will not be tolerated. And finally, the unbecoming conduct over on under D1, page 10. Two more, next page, please. Unbecoming conduct, we expect our officers shall conduct themselves at all times, both on duty and off duty, in a manner to reflect most favorably on the department. Then under number 8, respect for fellow employees. Again, this all comes down to respect for and not only for fellow employees, but the public that we serve. And that's all under General Order 101. And again, I want to emphasize that this is to promote trust and professionalism in the Sheriff's Office. We believe we hold our officers to a high standard. If these rules of conduct are violated, we do take disciplinary action, anywhere from a counseling session with the employee all the way up to termination. We also have General Order 101A, which again promotes procedural justice. And this one's got to do with social media. And I'm just going to go quickly right to page 3. C, limitations. Again, we hold our officers accountable that no sexual, violent, racial, ethnically derogatory material, comments, pictures, artwork, video, or other references shall be posted along with any Sheriff's Office video approved reference. And employees shall not post any material on the internet that brings discredit to or merely adversely affects the efficiency or integrity of the agency. Those are the first two I wanted to talk about real briefly. But the one with the real meat to it is General Order 120. And if you look right at the policy itself, you can see where it reads, the Genesee County Sheriff's Office recognizes the importance of maintaining an atmosphere of openness with the community we serve. All members of the Genesee County Sheriff's Office shall project a positive image and become active in community needs. The conduct of each member reflects upon the agency as a whole, and the burden of achieving the agency's community relations objectives should be shared. Then we go into courtesy down at the bottom, and shall not express any prejudice concerning race, religion, politics, national origin, lifestyle, or similar circumstances. And if we go over to page 3, individual dignity, all persons have the right to be dignified treatment under the law, and the protection of this right is a duty which is binding on all members. And then we get into I, which is equality of enforcement. Consistency in application is a primary and fundamental element of uniform enforcement. And again, you can read the rest of it yourself, but again, we promote interactions with the community. We promote and insist upon with our officers and all of our staff, whether it be road patrol, communications, jail personnel, civilian employees, that we treat the public with respect and dignity. We teach them to bite their tongue at times. We participate in many things throughout the community. Interactions with the communities are very important. And the idea behind procedural justice is that there's several things. Fairness in the application of the law and assisting our citizens. to give them a voice, and the decisions are made, or the employees even here, give them a voice on when we implement new strategies or whatever. Transparency, very, very important. We try to be as transparent as possible. Let's face it, we work for the citizens of this county. We work with other municipalities. There are certain things that obviously cannot be released to the public because of sensitivity of investigations, but transparency is very, very important, and impartiality. This is all to create partnerships with the public. We're a small agency. I think anywhere in police work today, you have to understand that problem solving does require the input from the citizens of the county or of the municipality that you're serving. In light of that, we do things such as we've created we do many, many public presentations. There may be a citizen's complaint of maybe a rash of burglaries in a particular area. We will work with community members and town or village officials to have discussion on appropriate ways to be handling those or possibly gather information. So public presentation and public interaction is vital to procedural justice. It's giving the public a voice in the activities of law enforcement. To create these bonds and so forth, we've also we are involved in community meetings, neighborhood watch. This meeting tonight, we're on reforming police services. That's procedural justice. We don't have all the answers, so we look to the public to give us their input. Sometimes we can roll with it, and other times, quite simply, we can't. But it's very important that we get the community interaction. We participate in communities with the parades throughout the summer. Safe Child ID. We implemented the SRO program to assist with the schools and be active in that community environment. And we've also established the Teen Academy. I guess one of the questions we have to ask, and I'll put out to the board here, are there additional steps you can suggest that would help give people confidence that we treat the citizens equally and fairly? Any comments on that?
Bill, this is Shelley. A question for you. How do your orders differ from other policing agencies here in the county? So if I was to have an interaction with the sheriff's deputy versus village police, could you tell me what would be different? What would my expectation, how would that be different?
I think your expectations should always be they're going to be treated fairly, with compassion when necessary, that you're going to be listened to, I think the big one right there is fairness, and that's going to be consistent across the board. I got to be honest, I don't have Leroy's or the City of Batavia's rules and regulations. I would venture to say that they probably mimic ours to a certain degree, not word for word, but I just can't give you an answer on how that would compare. But I do believe here in our county anyways that we pretty much act on the same playing field.
Thank you.
Bill, your experience both as an officer and now obviously as a sheriff, where do you find the biggest challenge on those day to day with the operation out on the the roads, or the investigators, the undercover guys? What's your biggest issue that comes up for you guys that they got to kind of step back?
I'm not quite certain specifically what you're asking me for, but I think the challenging times right now are are what is viewed as the lack of support for police officers. And I'll repeat this. I know I've repeated or said it before. I don't think there's so much around Genesee County. I think for the most part, the citizens of Genesee County respect the law enforcement services here. However, there is a reflection from across the country that there has been some abuse of powers. There's been some biases and So I think the officers right now, the biggest challenge is dealing with the situation we're in now. They all love their jobs. They love serving the community. It gets hectic with the restrictions that are being put on us by the governor as far as how to proceed in the criminal justice system with arrest and so forth. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, Bob.
Do you, uh, do you get many complaints
Against
or
officers?
feedback? Yeah, of their behavior out there?
Very few. I think the last I looked, we may have 7 or 8 this year. And very few on excessive force, if any, this year. Many times they're speared by the fact that maybe somebody got a ticket and they didn't like the way they were treated. But again, that's the interaction with the public. I would be the first to say that we can always improve on that. Some officers have a very good demeanor with the public. Some officers can use improvement. Again, it's give and take. Respect, you give respect, you get respect. And but even if you don't get that respect, you have to still be professional and just do your job. But when we do get these complaints, they're looked into immediately. We have a complaint form that is given to the individuals to file the complaint, and we pull up video, the body cam video right away and start looking at that. We do not accept performance by an officer that's less than par.
Thank you. Any other questions for Bill at this
I have a
point?
question.
Yes, Ms. White.
Oh, sorry. I know you said, I'm Rachel. I know you said that the interaction that you have with the community is really good. I'm just curious about activities and events that you guys did in the past for the community. That I heard of, I'm not sure if it's Genesee or Rochester, but I heard that they did, like around Christmas time, they have like shopping, like the kids, they shop with some police officers and stuff. Do you guys do those type of things also?
I'm glad you asked that. Yes, we do. That's called Shop with the Cop. We've always hooked up with Walmart to do that type of, or do that for the kids. Unfortunately, what I'm being told is this year Walmart is not going to be taking part in that. However, Target has a program that they started, I think last year was the first year. We call it Stuff the Cruiser. And each of the police agencies here in Genesee County will have a patrol vehicle out in front of Target, and individuals can buy toys and so forth for the needy here in the county, and we will distribute them. Shop with a Cop was very, very popular, and it was a wonderful thing to do. What I'm being told and that they're working on right now is the union is going to work with the school districts, hopefully, and identify children in need and make the donation themselves. And they will not donate the money to the families, but they will take the children out and let them shop. But that's still in the works.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments?
I've got a question if there's nobody else waiting.
Okay.
No, you're it.
Okay, hi, my name's Laura Williams, and I just want to first commend you because what you said about Genesee County really being kind of outside of the real issue that we're seeing across the country, I think that that's a really important point, and it's something that I've been having those conversations with friends of mine in Leroy and in Elba where I work, is that the reason it is so difficult for many of us, I think, in Genesee County to grasp the conflicts going on across the country is because I think we don't really have this enormous issue with our police force and with our sheriff's department. So I wanted to first commend you. And I think that's a really great point. And as part of being a teacher, and I feel like I have very, open blinders, and I have for many years, but since March, and have been doing a lot of reading about this, this movement of Black Lives Matter and police force and all this sort of stuff. One thing that I've dove very deep into is this notion of implicit bias. And it really opened my eyes, even though I felt my eyes were very open about this notion of implicit bias. Is there any more training that you're doing with your staff and your, employ everybody in your department to revisit again this idea that, we all have this bias and maybe we need to reimagine and rethink the way that we address every single issue that we're handling?
Yes. I can't think of her name. Matt, help me out. What's Julie's last name?
Harrison.
Okay, she did do a presentation for the county management people on bias, and that is an area that we definitely could use more training in. The officers do receive training in the basic academy, and then there's really not much follow-up to it. So we have mentioned that as one of the things that, and I'm sure Division of Criminal Justice Services through the Municipal Police Training Council is going to make that a mandatory in-service training, probably on a yearly basis. Absolutely an area that we need to focus on as we move forward.
Thank you. And again, thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Systematic racial bias. You want to move to that topic now, Sheriff?
Actually, I think we put that on our next meeting. We're going to have Julie do a presentation. Am I not right, Matt?
Oh. Am I looking at the wrong?
Oh, you're looking at studies addressing systematic racial bias and racial.
Yes, the studies. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't have any studies that I can really reference at this time. It's specific to Genesee County. I'm sure that our next meeting, Julie will be touching on some of those. Again, I don't think we have the degree of issues that maybe your inner city or your larger city departments have. I think not only the Sheriff's Office, but the Batavia PD and Leroy PD, we're very well supervised and scrutinized. And quite frankly, officers don't put up with that. But again, I don't have any studies that are specific to Genesee County.
So we will have more on that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks when we meet again.
But again, I would stress that I think that racial bias is something that should be an ongoing in-service training on a yearly basis.
Thank you. De-escalation. Number 4 actually on the agenda. Training and practice.
Our de-escalation policy, frankly, we don't have one. A specific one for de-escalation. What we do have is referenced in our use of force general orders that were discussed last time. I believe that the Division of Criminal Justice Services and Municipal Police Training Council is going to come out with that as being a mandatory in-service training per year. We do go through use of force training every year in conjunction with our firearms training. I would say again, this with our bias training, I think is something that we will be looking to implement on a yearly basis on an in-service training type program. Typically, we do that around the firearms and use of force training. I would say this though, Genesee County is very rural. Our patrols are spread thin. It's well known and accepted by the officers out there on the street that they better be able to de-escalate because their backup may be 15, 20 minutes away. And they're very good at it, I think. I always say, you're going to do more with your mouth than you are with your fist because they need to talk. They need to be able to communicate with people. They need to be able to listen. And although we don't have a formal de-escalation policy, that is one of the things that is harped on during field training is that you use force as a very, very last resort. You need to learn to talk to people. You need to learn to bring them down from the peak of where they're at and to treat them with respect. And I think we do a very good job with it at the sheriff's office because, like I say, we're very thin. Guys know that. They know that they're going to be in a situation sometimes where they're not only faced with one individual that may not be real happy, but maybe several. And they need to learn to talk to people. Again, it's about respect. De-escalation policy, we will be formulating one. Waiting for the model policy to come down from the state. Like we've said in the past, we're an accredited agency, and it's much easier to follow exactly what they want us, or the boilerplate that they give us to work with, rather than try to reinvent the wheel. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Comments? Okay. Law enforcement assisted diversion programs.
The diversion programs are handled through Genesee Justice, along with the restorative justice component. And I'm not sure if, Kathy, are you back out there?
Yes, I am. Yep.
I think you have a, I call it a slideshow to give us.
Yep. There is a PowerPoint, and can Matt or Steve put that up?
There we go.
There we go. Yes. You know, Genesee Justice was developed on the restorative justice philosophy. And, you know, Sheriff, when he touched on community and empowerment and everything that he talked about that the Sheriff's Office stands for, that is restorative justice, because you're giving the voice to the victim. You're giving the offender some accountability for what they have done, but you're also not giving them some competency development. In our programs, it's not just punishment. It's not just a punitive, you go to jail, you get out. Our programs try to develop some competency in the offender so that they go on in their lives and not recommit crimes. And, you know, encompassing it all is community safety. So that's what restorative justice is, and that's our philosophy at Genesee Justice. We look at what happened, who was affected, and what impact did it have on them, who is accountable for the harm that's caused, and how can that damage be repaired. That's what restorative justice is. And it's made a big difference on a lot of people. We have several programs, I'll describe them quickly, but those programs, we've had people come back and say it changed their lives. You know, they didn't realize that they had these bad habits, or that they, you know, had fallen into, you know, these destructive behaviors. And by giving them some treatment and giving them some counseling, they go on to not recommit their crimes. You can move the slides on. You can move that on. And this was a turning point. He said, restorative justice was my turning point. When I realized what effect my crimes had on other people, I felt ashamed and embarrassed. And it gives the victim a voice. You can go on. Our comprehensive victim program, it works with victims to help them attain empowerment and a more personal sense of justice. So, you know, by giving them the ability to speak for themselves, one of the major tools that we use is a victim impact statement. So a victim, when the offender is sentenced, they can address the offender in court. They can do that personally. They can have someone else do it for them. They can just write a letter and have the judge read it. So it gives them a voice of how this crime affected them personally, not just society as a whole. So we do comprehensive, that could go on in the next slide. We accompany people to court, the victims. We assist with orders of protection, requests for restitution. We just support them through the whole process of the court system. Many times it's very confusing for a victim. They don't know what the possibilities are, what's going to happen in court, and we give them that knowledge and continue to support them. So far this this year, we've contacted 439 victims. We have a large case we're working with right now with the funeral home situation. Trying to see those people to have them get justice. And that can go on to the next slide. Our DWI conditional discharge program, it's another restorative justice program. We work with first-time offenders on DWIs. They agree to the conditions and they have to address what their problem was with drugs or alcohol. Some of the conditions, that's on the next slide. They have to receive a substance abuse evaluation and follow any treatment recommendations. We do drug and alcohol testing. They have to attend a victim impact panel, an impaired driver program. Many of them have to complete community service as well. Right now we're working with 127 people on DWIs, and 80 of them are also working with their community service case. So, you know, a lot of the times those people didn't realize they started out with having a drink here and there, then they had one every night, and it got to be becoming a habit. And, you know, having this program is an eye-opener for them. You know, some of them said, gee, I didn't realize I had a problem. You know, I just thought everybody did this. And it really has changed a lot of the people's lives. Release under supervision, that's our most stringent program. We work with mainly felony cases. We do a bail evaluation to see if they're eligible in a scoring situation for ROR, pretrial release, or release under supervision. We give that information to the judge, and then the judge decides whether to release them under our supervision to keep them out of the jail, to keep the costs to the county down, but yet they have a supervision program, which would be similar to some probation conditions that they'd have to follow. Right now with bail reform, it's kind of changing how we're doing this, but we are presently supervising 60 people on RUS and 25 people on the less strict PTR. So those people maintain contact with us, but right now, you know, we're still developing how we're working with this with the new bail reform laws, but it is a good alternative to having someone just sit in jail and use up taxpayer monies and maybe lose their job. But this will help them, you know, maybe get the treatment they need, keep their job and their family intact while they go through their process. So
Kathy,
it doesn't.
I'm not sure if you mentioned what PTR is.
It's pretrial release. It's like a lighter version of the RUS program. It's kind of fairly new with bail reform. A lot of other counties are using it, and that's why we started using that as well. That's mainly they remain contact with our office just through phone calls. We remind them of, you know, their court dates. We may, if they're in treatment, we, you know, see if they're, you know, compliant with their treatment, things like that. But it's not as strict. Release under supervision would many times have curfews. We'd send the sheriffs out to assist us in doing curfew checks, home confinement sometimes, things like that. But it does keep the jail population down. I think we're trying to use it more, even if the defendant doesn't end up in jail because of the new bail reform laws, a judge can put them directly on PTR or RUS, and then the judges are using that more and more. Because
Did you say these are mostly non-violent individuals?
mostly, yes, mostly. We do have a couple people that have had more serious crimes that we're monitoring, but for the most part, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of, there's, you know, there are burglaries, there are robberies, there are things like that, but, you know, serious felonies are not normally placed on our program. So, so the drug and alcohol treatment and the mental health treatment, unfortunately, with bail reform, some of that is no longer permitted. So we do it if the judge determines that he wants it, but it's not as a normal course because of bail reform. But we do, you know, obey If they have orders of protection, we're checking on that, curfew checks. Obviously, no more problems with law, no more arrests, things like that. But that's what the conditions are there. So, and we have had some very successful cases with people on these programs. So moving along, ignition interlock supervision. We also monitor people who have to blow into an ignition interlock. Some of them are on our DWI program, some are not. Some are on parole. Parole does not monitor their ignition interlocks, so we get those cases. And we get reports all the time of, whether they own a car, whether they've changed their car, whether they've blown into it and have, had a alcohol content. And so we're monitoring those. Right now we have 49 just straight ignition interlock cases, not including the ones that are on our DWI program. So, and community service is one of the mainstays that Genesee Justice started on way back in the 80s. They're lower level offenses, and they're ordered to perform a designated number of hours of community service as at any non-for-profit agency. And some judges say, if the crime was committed in their town, they demand that the person does their community service in that town. But we find that very beneficial too, because many people that have gotten ordered to do community service have never really had an opportunity to be linked to a non-for-profit place with good people who are helping them out. And many of our individuals go on to volunteer at those places that they had to do their hours with. We've had many continue on with the animal shelter, Habitat for Humanity. We've had people help build houses, and they've just loved it. They've loved the people that they've been working with, so they continue on as volunteers. It's a very successful case. And we have 85 of those cases, plus the 80 that are associated with our DWI program. So, and we can move on. And those are, this is a little dated, it's 2017, but we had clients perform 4,884 hours of work at non-for-profit agencies, which is a savings of $50,000, over $50,000 for those agencies. In pretrial release, the money saved, I mean, this is a case that came out of Texas. A person was arrested for speeding and he sat in jail for 83 days. And that was cost the county down in Texas thousands. Where in our county, if a person was in for 83 days, that would be almost $10,000. And so, $8,400 more than that bail would have been at 15. So, if we can keep people out of the jail, that's saving, taxpayers thousands of dollars. So, and those are our numbers. Those are our programs right now that we are monitoring, just our dependent cases. So we're busy. We can always use, we like to be able to help these situations, and but we are busy. So, but it is a restorative justice based program, and I think they're going to talk more about restorative justice at the next meeting. Is that right? I think it's on the agenda for tonight, but I thought the sheriff said it was going to be on the, we were going to talk more about restorative justice in the next meeting.
I think you're correct.
So does anybody have any questions about our programs?
So Kathy, when I look at all of the help that's available for folks, could you talk about your reoffenders? Do you have statistics on that? Or is the restorative justice program kind of like under the radar and it really works well and maybe I wouldn't have heard about it?
The reoffending, those clients that we have that reoffend?
Yep, if you could talk about those rates.
Oh, well, we don't, it's hard for us to judge all the rates because someone could commit a crime in another county and we wouldn't get the statistics on that. But we have a very high success rate in completing the programs without a violation while they're on our program. That was reported to the state every quarter, and we have very, very high rates of success in those areas. But as I said, we haven't kept statistics on reoffending because we can't run a criminal history on a case that's not in our program. So, we'd have to run, it would be hard to track where these people were or whether they were reoffending. So, but we do have a high success rate while they're on our program.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Bob, if I may,
sure.
going back to procedural justice, I'm very interested in the perception of, the other committee members on where we can improve. What other, I have some things like I would like to see us more active in town board meetings and so forth for our officers to be able to attend those and get a firsthand view of what concerns communities have. I'm just curious on what other suggestions people may have and what they'd like to see us do to be more interactive with the public. I'm just looking for some suggestions.
Thoughts, anyone? Down here, as you well know, Sheriff, in the village of Bergen where I live, they actually contract with your office to do some extra patrolling down here. And one of the high mischief, what do you want to say, periods is from like mid-May to end of July when the kids just begging to get out of school and da-da-da-da-da. And those nights are so productive because the guys and gals that are on the patrol down here, get out of the car, walk up to the park where the kids are playing basketball or into Ralph and Rosie's and, pick up a piece of pizza for themselves or whatever. And that has been, in my opinion, and I'm sure if I talk with the mayor, they all agree, that's been a very, very productive program. And just to see the officers and, connect with them on a more personal level, although they're obviously on duty while they're doing that.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I was going to make a similar comment or suggestion, and I think I learned this. I was the director of an after-school program, and I remember walking down the hall to get a parent whose kid got in trouble a lot, and I saw their face when they saw me, and it was like, oh no, here we go. And I realized, especially for the kids that got in trouble, I needed to have as many good interactions as the bad ones I was going to have. And that's anytime you have a good interaction with a law enforcement officer, whether it's, you hit a deer and they're, super helpful or, whatever that positive interaction is. And so something like shopping with a cop is such a great thing because there's going to be a certain amount of negative, right? There's going to be getting a ticket, getting arrested, whatever it is. But every time there's that positive interaction that reminds you they're community members, that, care about this area as well. I think that's a win. And so, they can't really just go around seeking those out, but I think to push that of, every time you can have something that ends in mutual respect, it's a win for the sheriff's office.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that was one of the big things with the SRO program, the relationships that we've made out in the schools. Like you say, sometimes you have to be not necessarily a disciplinarian, but you have to lay the law down. But more often than not, the relationships we've made with the children have just has been phenomenal. They are no longer. They look up to the police officers again, and they recognize that we're human beings and that we have families too, and that we've made mistakes in our lives, and yeah, there's really nothing that we can't get through if we all work together. So uh, I think the SRO program is a huge step towards creating great relationships with the public. When these kids grow up, when they start having a police officer there since they're in first grade or even before, and throughout their whole academic career, I can only believe that that's going to foster great relationships in the future.
Other comments, please, for the sheriff? Shelley?
Bill, does
Oh, sorry.
every school have a SRO officer? I know that Leroy has a different kind of plan around that, but they do. Does every school have some sort of law enforcement available to their students?
All except one, and I haven't given up on that yet. But there's one school in the county that I think it's because of basically because of the cost associated with it and their enrollment. But I haven't given up.
You know, I work at that school, and I think that that is part of it. But I also think that there's a whole nother aspect that's kind of along the lines of what we're talking about here.
Yes.
I think there's two methods of approaching this and bridging the gap between you know, officers and in this case, kids, right? I mean, I think there's a whole nother audience that we need to try to tap into as well. But I think that there are some people who are hesitant to bring officers into a building for fear of scaring kids, rather than acclimating kids to the positives that can come out of having an officer more directly in their lives. I'd be willing to help you with that.
I would certainly appreciate it. And what you've said, yes, I have heard that. And I was hoping that the SRO program pretty much sells itself. You know, once you get the officer in there and they see what a good service it is, and how much the kids really enjoy it, and there's that safety factor also. So if I would be more than willing to accept your help.
Kathy?
I'll try my best.
It's also,
Kathy?
it's also a part of a bias, you know, an implicit bias. Sometimes people don't realize they have that bias, but it comes out in times like this, that, oh, like the gentleman that said, John, that said, you know, once they saw him coming out, it was like, oh boy, you know, it's that without even, it's that bias without, you know, you're judging just by the sight of somebody. And, you know, it's in all of our lives. It's in, you know, whether it's, you know, someone, their looks, their height, their weight, you know, their age. People have those bias, and we have to, you know, strive to get rid of those.
Thank you. Rachel, did you have something?
Yes, I did. So I'm a college student. I'm here at Genesee Community College, and I'm not sure how interactive you guys are with the college, or if you're allowed to talk to the residents or not. But a suggestion that I can give is probably like coming around every semester or something with some police officers and maybe interacting with the college students. So especially like the residents, the ones who live at the dorms, so then they know that your presence are here, not only when like a fire alarm is going off or something. More than that, I'm not sure that will help, but yeah, like having the police officers come at least once, like once in a semester, that should be good.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Absolutely. Because we have many people from outside this area that may come from a culture where, you know, there is that distrust of police officers, and I would welcome the opportunity to show them that maybe we're a little bit different here. We treat people with respect and dignity, and we're there to help.
Yeah, because as much as even though the school is small, the interracial, the students are very diverse, especially the ones who live in the dorms. A lot of people from New York City, people from foreigners from different countries. So that would be good.
Thank you.
Others? Bill or Matt or Shelley, did you have anything further you wanted to talk about this evening before we?
If I'm taking attendance, can I just double check? I have a dad's iPhone. Can I just ask who that one is?
Dan?
Dad's iPhone.
Yeah, Dan's iPhone.
That one, and then also they just left. I had somebody that said authorized user, and they're gone now. So those are the only two that I didn't have down who they were for attendance purposes. I apologize for everyone for the mask. I'm in quarantine, and I'm negative tested, but I'm going through the process of having to have this on for 14 days and isolate. So that's why I've got the mask.
Hope you feel good, better.
Right.
Thank you. Is there anything else this evening?
So
Just
Bob, I just wanted to let everyone know that we appreciate the fact that you have the capacity to be Zooming with us. We want to make sure that every voice is heard, every thought is heard. And I want to say to Mrs. Williams there, thank you for bringing up the other side of the thought that people might be scared of law enforcement. As an employer of farm workers here in the county, we definitely have that at times when we see police vehicles just on the road. And so it's not something that I would have. So as we talk about these implicit biases, right, it's an aha moment for me. So I appreciate the fact that we can be as open as we are with each other, and we should continue to have the trust in each other and these conversations. So thank you.
And I would like to just reiterate again that we're open to constructive criticism, suggestions. The whole idea is to, reinvent policing and make changes where we need to make the changes. So don't hold back. If there's things that you want to bring out to my attention, I'm more than welcome to listen to you and see what we can do.
And along those lines also, if you have, I know one of the areas we had tonight that we kind of touched over was the studies, any studies that are out there. If somebody comes across something that they find interesting, something they would like to share to the group, send it to me and I'll make sure I get it out to the whole committee. Jerry had some information for us at a prior meeting that I forwarded on to the whole group for their consideration. So same thing, if there's some information that we might be a little bit on the lighter side, even if it's something that pertains to a wider geographic area, because there probably aren't a lot of studies specifically dedicated towards Genesee County or Western New York, probably even, but it's still to get a perspective of some research studies that are out there that by all means forward them along.
Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for participating tonight. We will meet again in 3 weeks from tonight on December 7th. I'm assuming it'll probably be Zoom, but we'll see. At that time, we'll be talking about implicit bias awareness training, community-based outreach and conflict resolution, and problem-oriented policing. In the
Hey,
meantime,
Bob, just one thing. I think Perez unmuted his microphone.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
I'm
I did,
sorry.
'cause I was thinking about saying something. No, you're fine. I just had a question because I think before in some of the other meetings that we had, we were talking about minorities being recruited, and the sheriff stated that there weren't many minorities that applied for jobs for becoming a sheriff. And to touch on what John talked about, as far as whenever he would go down to a classroom and students would see him coming, they would automatically become scared. And I think that has a lot to deal with how they interact with the police officers or the the school resource officers. It's like if you see someone that looks like you, you're less likely to be paranoid, because when you watch news or as soon as you watch TV or you see anything, all of a sudden you think, if this guy is here, this is not good. And as far as like the community, as far as, excuse me, I'm just wondering what type of programs you have or should you put in place for officers to actually go out and recruit minorities, like going down to the high schools or like something like Shop with a Cop, something a little bit bigger than that as far as trying to bring them in, not just to shop, but actually become employed, because my interaction with cops or police officers, like I said, I grew up in Alabama, and the only time we ever saw a police officer was when there was something bad going on. So even to this day, I haven't done anything wrong in 30 years. But I'm driving and I see a cop put his brake lights on, my heart starts beating, or what did I do now? I've done nothing, and it's all about, and then when the cop comes up, it's like, okay, this guy doesn't like me, because just based off what I'm saying, I'm just wondering what type of program, or can we put something in place to go down to the high schools or try to recruit more minorities, so those children, when they're coming up little, they, like my kids, my stepfather was a police officer, my brother-in-law, my cousin, police officers, and my kids go to Alexander, and they like to hang out with Deputy Meyer more than they like to hang out with me, because he interacts with him, and I like that. And I want my children to be able to see a police officer and not be afraid, or see him. Okay, you know, I'm just trying. What type of programs can we put in place to recruit more minorities?
Well, again, I think that was one of the most positive things with the SRO program, is that it breaks down those barriers to some extent, especially, I think we'll see it in the future more and more as these kids grow up with the police officer in their schools. As far as recruitment goes, we do partake in job fairs out at the college on a regular basis. I think we can do a better job at recruiting. I think we're gonna have to do some advertising, which we've really never done in the past. But again, job fairs and things like that.
One thing, I'm sorry to jump
go
on
ahead.
there, but one thing that I've just seen that's been very successful with some of our students, and one in particular that I'm thinking who is a minority as well, he job shadowed or set up a ride along or something like that. And I'm not sure how that was arranged, but it was incredibly powerful for him, and now he's pursuing a career in law enforcement. So I don't know if there's any way that we can make schools aware that that is something that's available, and I don't even know if it's something that is readily available, if it was just for him, but it changed his life for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We do job shadows for college students that are involved with the criminal justice program up at GCC, and from other local colleges such as Brockport and so forth. BOCES does have a criminal justice program over there also, that we have allowed the students to job shadow with us for a day or a few hours here or there. But I think we could bolster that a little bit. And I don't want to use the COVID thing, but right now we've had to put that all on hold with COVID. But absolutely, happens every time. I think that's a great idea.
Bill, one of the things I think you started 3 or 4 years ago, and I participated, was your summer camp program. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was thinking of too.
Again, we couldn't do it this year because of COVID, but what we do is yearly we put on what we call a Teen Academy. That's open to all juniors throughout the county. Junior going into their senior year, and during that summer period, where we will give them a mini version of a police academy, and explain to them the various divisions within law enforcement. And that's gone over extremely well. It's a week long. There's PT involved. There's scenarios involved where we do traffic stops. There's penal law education, vehicle and traffic law education, arrest procedures, defensive tactics, and so forth. It's a 20-week program that an officer goes through. It's condensed down to 1 week, but it really does give them a little taste. And we've gotten nothing but favorable reviews on that.
I participated in 2 or 3 years of graduation and just talking with the kids afterwards. And they came from all 6 or 8 school districts in the county.
Right.
And invariably, they really, really enjoyed it. And I think they really got a perspective of law enforcement that they probably never had before.
And I dare say that we will see some of those individuals applying for jobs, whether it be with the sheriff's office or other PDs, or even in dispatch, corrections, or some emergency services programs. We touch on all of them. But I'm open to suggestions on recruitment. You know, we are governed by civil service regulations, but the thing is to get the minority population to take the test.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Yes, Jerry.
One, I apologize for being here late, but I would just like to add to what Matt said about if we have anything that we wanted to address that we either didn't have time to or forgot or came up after, as far as questions, comments, suggestions, we can get them to Matt, whether it's about things that were on this agenda or on previous agendas. Sometimes people think about things and, you know, get a comment or suggestion out to Matt so we can discuss it at the next meeting, so we don't have to wait to remember what to bring up at the meeting. So that's just another thought to be able to get those things to Matt after today's meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one of the things I'd like to throw out there one more time is that to think about it until our next meeting on ways that we can improve on our interaction with the public and work together with the public to improve policing here in the county.
Okay. All right then. Well, thank you everybody for coming this evening, participating. So we'll see you in 3 weeks. In the meantime, I hope everybody can have a nice Thanksgiving, whatever the requirements are going to be or what you got to put up with. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.